The world of video games is full of rumors. Releases, cancellations, features, you know exactly what I mean. But some rumors are absolutely stupid and point fingers where they don't belong. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 dumbest allegations made against video games. Starting off with number 10, and we are diving right in here, the allegation that Pokemon is satanic. When it comes to video game franchises, few can match the size and scope of Pokemon, one of the highest grossing media franchises of all time. In the United States alone, it's made around $109 billion, and it's still going strong today. But with any big franchise, especially one that's popular with kids, there's going to be some form of controversy, and definitely the dumbest is that Pokemon was created to promote Satanism. The first Pokemon game came out in the United States in 1996 and took America by storm. While most people saw it as a harmless game about a totally normal hobby of capturing wild creatures and getting them to fight each other for the player's amusement, some saw something much more sinister. The Pokemon Wiki, known as Bulbapedia, has a pretty comprehensive list of the series' supposed crimes. According to certain Pokemon, they're basically the stand-ins for demons, as they're creatures that you capture and command, kind of like King David, I guess. They also cite the game's use of the term evolution as a bad thing, even though it really doesn't work the same way as the real-life theory of evolution is said to function. Also, that many Pokemon have paranormal and psychic powers, which, yeah, I'll give you that one. I don't know why that's so bad, though. I mean, it's not like any of that stuff's actually real, so depicting it in a game that's not about worshipping devils isn't going to turn kids into devil worshippers, you know? Probably the most ludicrous claim is that if you listen to the lyrics of the Pokemon rap backwards, you can hear, "I love you, Satan," which admittedly would be pretty metal if it was actually true. It's not, though. The whole controversy was just a bunch of silly hand-wringing over nothing. Basically, a game comes out, it's popular with kids, and some crackpot decides that it's a tool of Satan. I guess that's just an inevitability, something that's just bound to happen in modern society. At number 9, that the video game Bully was literally just a bully simulator. Yeah, we were able to make it a whole point talking about dumb allegations against video games without mentioning Jack Thompson, gaming's former boogeyman, and a dude we could have centered this entire list around. Like, this guy has made a lot of really dumb allegations. Now that he's disbarred and out of the public eye, it's kind of easy to see him as the attention seeker and charlatan that he really was, and not like an existential threat to the gaming industry that he was portrayed as, and maybe even kind of had closer power to, given the fact he was an actual lawyer and constantly filed actual legal actions. His whole vendetta against Bully was up there as maybe the most ill-conceived and ridiculous, though. The stuff that he alleged happens in the game is just all over the place. Like, sometimes he would fairly accurately describe the stuff you could do just in over-the-top language, like how you can use slingshots as weapons and get into fights, but other times he'd just go wildly off script and describe the game as a school genocide simulator where you take over the school and other various completely ungrounded in reality statements. The thing is, Bully is a game where you fight against bullies, not where you are a bully. And while it certainly is crude at times, it's probably one of the least violent Rockstar games ever made, because you play as a kid in a boarding school. It's so much harder to go on a violent rampage compared to GTA games, and you never actually kill anyone. Jack Thompson wasn't the only one criticizing Rockstar about Bully back when it came out. I mean, certain people were so worked up about it in the UK that the game's name was changed to Canis Canum Edit, which obviously just rolls off the tongue. Something I just don't even understand. In retrospect, the whole moral panic surrounding the game was just really dumb and overblown. At number 8, the Fallout 3 artwork was supposedly actually terrorist propaganda. Okay, we talked about a few big-time gaming controversies so far, but let's just talk about something that's straight up stupid. The Daily Mail is a UK newspaper that's not exactly well known for its carefully researched and accurate reporting, but this is like so off the mark that it's almost hard to believe. Back in 2008, a couple of news sources reported on this documentary-style video that got posted on a quote-unquote Islamist forum. And while some sources tried to stick with what they knew to actually be true, others just sort of straight up made stuff up. Like the idea that this random bit of Fallout 3 artwork that was the header on these forums was actually a sophisticated computer-generated image created by terrorists as a terrifying vision of devastated America. Yeah, I guess the Daily Mail really had to pad out their word count that day, because what the hell? They could have just not said anything about the image, because clearly they didn't recognize where it came from, but instead they just claimed that it was created by terrorists. Now say what you will about Bethesda's developers, but calling them terrorists, a little harsh. At number 7, that Mass Effect features full digital character nudity. Here's another one. Some people were going absolutely nuts about the supposed graphic sex scenes in Mass Effect back in 2007 and 8. Like, it's easy to point specifically at this completely infuriating Fox News segment about the game, where it's obvious no one in the room has even seen it, let alone played it. But they weren't the only ones getting angry at the game because it's supposedly pornographic content. And the whole thing was obviously really stupid. The sex scenes in this game were like beyond tame, even by the standards of its time. There was certainly no full-blown digital character nudity, obviously, nor was the game Luke Skywalker meets Debbie Does Dallas, as one brainless pundit claimed. The funny thing about the whole Fox News segment is that the main person they talked to about this, a woman named Cooper Lawrence, later admitted she'd never even heard of the game before entering the studio, and that someone there just told her it was like pornography. That's it. And beyond that, it just feels so hollow because they're talking about Mass Effect, a game that feels like it really doesn't necessarily earn the mature rating it gets. The entire controversy about sex in the first Mass Effect game feels quaint these days, but believe me, it was really stupid back in 2008 too. At number 6, when PETA claimed that Nintendo promotes skinning animals. Back in 2011, PETA, which is an organization that ostensibly, because of its initials, which stand for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, was and maybe still is in this fake outrage to generate engagement phase. And this was maybe the fakest outrage of all. Their claim was, and this is a stretch, so try to follow me here, that Super Mario 3D Land is insensitive about or somehow supports the hunting and killing of real-life tanukis for their fur. Basically, they're accusing Nintendo of promoting the skinning of animals because Mario wears a tanuki costume in the game. If you don't know what a tanuki is, it is a real thing. They're these Japanese raccoon dogs, and the weird statue transformation power it has in Mario games is a reference to the Bake Tanuki, a supernatural creature that looks like a tanuki and can shapeshift into a statue, among other things. PETA went so far as to make an entire game themselves called Mario Kills Tanuki, which is appropriately bloody for maximum outrage. While Shockwave Flash was a big thing on the internet, PETA was really, unbearable. They wanted gamers to get angry at them because they wanted to bring light to a real-world issue. But as with a lot of these promotional stunts pulled by PETA, it just made the organization seem like attention seekers who intentionally act in bad faith rather than passionate advocates for animal rights. I mean, seriously, this whole thing is because Mario wears an animal costume. That is it. At number 5, the accusation that Warhammer 40k Space Marine is a Gears of War ripoff. To start, Warhammer 40k is bigger than ever these days. Steam gets basically a deluge of new 40k games on a monthly basis, and a lot of them aren't that great, but there's just so many of them that there's bound to be a few diamonds in the rough. With the surprise announcement of a Space Marine sequel coming soon, it's fun to go back and revisit this incredibly dumb controversy that Warhammer 40k is a Gears of War ripoff. Released back in 2011, Space Marine was a third-person shooter developed by Relic where you take on the role of, a Space Marine, a genetically modified super soldier who is the Empire's first defense against the many enemies that are constantly besieging them. It almost feels silly describing what a Space Marine is since they're so ubiquitous nowadays, but back when this game first came out, the Warhammer 40k universe could still be seen as somewhat niche. That's the time this article was written, titled, "How Many Ways Can THQ's Space Marine Rip Off Gears of War?" Now, the writer complains about things like the Marines' giant shoulder pads, their oversized guns, the presence of a chain sword, and the copious amounts of violence in Space Marine, claiming they're all stolen from Gears of War. But here's the thing, the first edition rulebook for the Warhammer 40k setting came out all the way back in 1987, while the first Gears of War game came out in 2006, almost 20 years later. Hell, Gears of War wasn't even the only thing a Warhammer game was accused of ripping off. Back when StarCraft was really popular, many accused the Dawn of War games as being StarCraft ripoffs without realizing that StarCraft was working from the template that Warhammer created. In comparison to many of the other points on this list, this accusation's relatively tame, but the fact that it's so wrong and so easy to verify makes it one of the dumbest allegations out there. And yet, the writer of the article did update it later to say that it was gameplay they were accusing of ripping off Gears of War, but having played both games, I'm gonna say that's not very accurate either. At number 4, that Animal Crossing's Mayor Tortimer is a predator. This is a pretty bizarre one. It's understandable for parents to be worried about any game their kid plays that has some kind of online component. Yes, any game that's popular with kids can potentially be a place for people who really shouldn't be interacting with children to thrive, but in this case, I think these allegations went a little too far. For this one, we're talking about a specific allegation made by ABC17 back in 2009. In a story about how predators use gaming consoles as a tool to gain access to children, they hilariously focus on poor old Mayor Tortimer, accusing him of being a possible predator even though he is an NPC and not another player. Like, the whole report's filled with misinformation, like claiming you interact with strangers normally and that the game encourages you to exchange information and favors in order to level up or something. Honestly, the stuff they're saying doesn't make any sense at all if you haven't played the game, and if you have, it just comes off as straight up nonsense. Even back in 2009, the only way to play with other people in Animal Crossing was to exchange friend codes, and that meant it took some effort to play with someone else. At the end, they basically just say Animal Crossing is a game for kids and adults should never play it, which, tell that to the millions of adults who played Animal Crossing in the past few years. They might disagree a bit. And number 3, Spider-Man got downgraded and the proof is in a puddle, aka puddle-gate. Listen, downgrading is a real thing that happens, but the whole argument around the PS4 Spider-Man game that happened right before it came out was just really dumb. I mean, a lot of people recognized it because the whole thing quickly became a big meme, but the whole thing actually did start with a few real people getting worked up about puddles in a few pre-release screenshots. That's really all this boils down to. There were 2 similar screenshots, one that came earlier, closer when the game was first revealed, and one that came out near the release date, and someone noticed with horror that the new screenshot had fewer puddles in it. Clearly, this was a sign that Insomniac had downgraded the game, a common complaint where developers make a game look better before the release as a way to misrepresent how good the game actually looks. And like we said, it's a real problem with games. Downgrading is a thing that does happen, but in this particular case, the whole argument was based on a puddle. Some people thought that the detail on Spider-Man's suit wasn't quite as good as well, so it wasn't all about the puddles, but it might as well have all just been about the puddles. We as gamers make a habit of assuming the worst, especially when it comes to big budget games, but sometimes people really want to see smoke where there's no fire. It makes sense, but it can lead to some really dumb allegations like this one. The amount of puddles aren't going to make or break the graphics in a game, and the change was most likely done simply for aesthetic reasons. So the reason this one got as big as it did is because the reasoning was pretty flimsy to begin with, and there were just as many people making fun of it as there were taking it seriously. At the end of the day, Spider-Man was a great looking game, and yeah, even if it did get downgraded a bit like most games do, it didn't really matter. At the end of the day, while a lot of the puddle-gate uproar was probably ironic, it was still pretty dumb. And number 2 is this idea that Nintendo is dying or going multi-platform. Like, remember back in the dark days of the Wii U, every so often you'd hear rumors about Nintendo giving up on its hardware division or going multi-platform, or that the company was just straight up going under. Like, so many people were posting opinion pieces or articles about Nintendo's failing prospects, and for a while it really seemed like the possibility that Nintendo, as we knew it, wouldn't be around in a few years. Of course, with the massive success of the Switch, all those allegations and rumors come off as very silly silly now. We know that Nintendo has weathered some not so great consoles in the past. I mean, remember the Virtual Boy? And that never ended up killing them. But for some reason, there's a particular doom and gloom surrounding the company back in the Wii U day. Part of it probably came from how much the game industry in general was changing at the time. For a lot of people, Nintendo seemed out of touch and old-fashioned compared to the innovations coming from Sony and Microsoft. Of course, these days it seems like Nintendo's old-fashioned games are more popular than ever, so there's still a big market out there for what they offer. So for this one, we're not really talking about any specific articles or anything, but there were plenty out there. From the outside looking in, this is one allegation that probably made sense at the time, but also if you knew anything about Nintendo's financials, it didn't. That's a company that just has an absolute load of money and could operate at a loss for an incredibly long period of time, and they don't. With the Nintendo Switch looking poised to surpass the lifetime sales of even the massively popular Wii, it's just hard to see Nintendo as anything less than a success these days, especially from a business sense. At number 1, that Night Trap had extreme amounts of violence. It doesn't get a lot dumber than this. Between December 7th, 1993 and March 5th, 1994, the United States Senate held several congressional hearings about the effects of video game violence on children. These hearings had a huge lasting effect on the video game industry in the US, leading to the creation of the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, or the ESRB, which is still around today. That's, of course, not dumb at all. It's important history if you want to understand how far the video game industry has come. But seriously, the fact that the video game Night Trap was the cause of much of the controversy just looks straight up dumb these days. There were 3 games that got the lion's share of attention during these hearings: Mortal Kombat, Lethal Enforcers, and Night Trap. And Night Trap is by far the dumbest. It's an FMV full-motion video game where the goal is to watch computer screens and stop these goofy-looking monsters from attacking girls at a slumber party. Like, the whole thing looked and felt like a slightly interactive Saved by the Bell Halloween episode, but during the hearing it was accused of promoting gratuitous violence and sexual aggression against women. Keep in mind, this is a game where the goal is to save everyone, and it's almost completely violence-free. To say that the allegations against this game were overblown would be a massive understatement. This quote from a 1UP article about the Sega CD by Jeremy Parrish pretty much perfectly sums it up. Night Trap's game objectives were mischaracterized either through ignorance or deliberate obfuscation, transforming it from bland and a barely titillating FMV adventure to a child-corrupting sexual boogeyman. Night Trap isn't even a good game. Honestly, it's hardly worth remembering. But all the allegations made against it were so dumb and wrong that it's kind of shocking looking back. Like, nobody show any of these people Mortal Kombat 11. Their heads might straight up explode. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, so click subscribe and don't forget to enable all notifications. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero. And we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.